I'm waiting for you.
Okay, guys, let's bring it in. So the next thing we're going to do is set the scene a little bit and actually create some effects and things like that. Okay, so I want to show you the environment here. So when you're back in build mode, the environment settings are actually incredibly easy to modify. And right now we don't have a site location, so I can just go to weather and start to modify. It has a north, south, east, and west for the sun position, and then it has an daytime or nighttime time of day. So, or really it's just the height of the sun. So as I kind of move the sun around the sky like this, it gives me the different position, right? So at the same time, I can move the sun up and down, and the closer you get to the middle, the more, you know, dusk or dawn it's going to look. And you can even go all the way down into nighttime. So it's really as easy as that for you to set your basic scene. Now, you will have to set a different sun position for each image when you set those up, but we'll get to that in due time. What I want to do here is work with a really low sun and see what I can do to get a really dramatic reflection off of the building with that sun. So the you can do that. I'll show you how to do that, but right now I don't know where my building is in the world. I just dropped it in here as an example, so I don't know what latitude and longitude to use. Yeah. So anyway, let's keep swinging this thing around.
What is that direction on the north side?
What's that?
That's the angle of the sun?
Yeah. So this is showing where the sun is reflecting into my building. I want to try and get a reflection of the sun on the building. I think that kind of does it.
Does it appear to on the north side?
What's that?
Does the sun appear to be on the north side?
Yeah, that's close enough. It's about as good as I'm going to get it. All right, so let's bring that down a little more. I think I want to do something kind of like that, okay? So when we go into our photo settings and we start looking at our building like this, you were interested in how do I get an actual sun position? Well, that's another effect. So you go to new effect and you can do what's called a sun study. And this will take your latitude and longitude and it'll put you roughly in the location that you're trying to study. I think for LA, I think we're at like 35 north. So you just drag it up, and then I think we're at negative 118, that negative meaning west. So 118-ish. Daylight savings time it also accounts for, but then you also have to account for your time zone. So our time zone is -8 GMT, that's Greenwich Mean Time. You guys know what GMT is, right? And it even goes through years, so you can measure the years. So let's go to June 21st at noon. So this is at noon on summer solstice. Okay. So I think what I want to do, though, is probably find... That's a morning shot. I actually kind of like that. Yeah, so that's getting somewhere. All right. So so anyway, we can just mess around with these settings like that, but there are a few other things we can do as well. One very interesting one that it looks like we do have the ability to use is shadow, Omni Shadow. So the shadow is, you're probably not going to see much of it here in the preview, but it will, you'll see a lot of it when we actually render it out. Well, maybe when we do an interior shot mostly. But you bump up the Omni Shadow, and notice how it made this region down here a little bit darker. That's kind of just a function of Lumion. And remember when I was telling you that when it casts shadows, it does like a couple of them, and then the next frame it'll do a couple more? Well, you'll start to see that really get animated here. So we bump that all the way up. You can change the brightness of the shadows, make it really dark, make it really bright. Generally for exterior urban renders, I like to make it a little bit darker, and then mess around with the coloring and make it a little bit cooler. So cool is to the right, warm is to the left. You know, like all these things, you guys don't need to learn all of them right now. I just want to show you and give you a sense of how it functions so that you understand like the ease of not having it be this exact number. You know, you kind of approximate, get it to be sort of what you need, and then that's that. I don't think we have to worry about shadow range in this render. Anyway, let's take a look at a few other effects. So I mentioned that there are two things that we're not going to have in a student version. That's speed ray, right? That's the accurate reflections. But there's also hyperlight. And hyperlight is essentially a way of getting a more vivid, diffuse light in your scene, which right now you notice doesn't really exist, right? There's no diffuse light here. It's all just actual light that's bouncing off of things, or not bouncing off of things, really. So the way that that's generated in something like Lumion, being a video game engine, is that diffuse lighting and ambient lighting is actually just a bunch of point lights that are floating around in space that you don't see, that produce illumination throughout the scene. So it's like this cloud of lights throughout the space. So that's called, in the effects, global illumination. And you don't have to worry too much about the preview. And I don't know if we're really going to get any here with this sun position.
I have a question.
Oh, I think that only works on videos. Yeah.
Like, does your like firm kind of like have like a someone to do like the sun angles and stuff, like find out like the I don't know.
Do we do accurate sun angle analysis? Yeah, we do.
Is that like a special person to do it, or is that amongst everyone?
Everyone does it.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't do it as we mostly do it as a graphic study. You know, like with Lumion actually, you can do a video of the sun kind of going through the space, and then give that to your client, and they'll see, you know, on any given day what it looks like when the sun goes through, and like where the sun that's leaking into the room is going to hit, you know, throughout different times of year. I've done that before, so yeah. So anyway, global illumination. I don't know how much this is going to do for us because I think our sun is technically below the horizon, but I don't know. We'll try it. And then some other things that I like to put on are, we're not going to get into all the crazy ones, but what's really interesting is that we can drop in like weather, so you can make it rain, like that. That's kind of fun.
I like how it's still like the reflection is still.
Yeah, yeah. So there are some weird things. Like if you did a speed ray reflection on that, I think it would show it a little better. There are some weird gamey things that don't really work out very well.
Is there snow?
Yes, there is. There's also snow. Winter in New York.
Does it really helpful?
There is fog, so we can increase the fog density. Now we're in LA.
Yeah.
So we saw Seattle, we saw New York, and now we're in LA. There you go. All right. Now we're in Beijing.
I thought.
No, actually, they're much better nowadays.
Is it useful though? When you put.
Actually, I do use these effects a little bit. I don't use snow or rain very much, but I do use fog mostly when I have too much landscape that's showing. Hang on. Like if I'm doing an aerial shot and I don't want to model everything in the background, I put a fog layer that only rolls up to the outbounds of my. I'll show you. What's that?
How will you do that?
I'll show you here. Oh, darn. So the way that you do that is you're going to put a fog layer on, and then you change the density, obviously. But see how the density grows from the back end?
Yeah.
Well, you can also change the fog fall off, right? Like you can play with certain things about it. So if you pull the density back but the fall off up, then you can get it to really just cut out things that are in the background. See? And in fact, I think I'm going to leave that on there now. So let's go back.
Can you put like a river in there, like a rabbit river?
I will show you water effects. It's really, you're going to love the water effects. But let's get done with this one first. So I'm going to also drop in volumetric sunlight, although I don't know if this is, yeah, our sun is, let me go back and move our sun. Woo, yeah. All right, there we go. Volumetric sunlight. Let's bump that brightness down a little bit. Wow, that is really sensitive volumetric sunlight. Let's go back to 6 o'clock and bring the sun up like that. Okay, so I don't know how much that's going to give us. We'll try it. Whoa. All right, and then I'm not really worried about much of the other stuff because we don't have much in here. You can create like really cool cloud effects and stuff. Cloud is good because you can change the sky brightness and bring that down to a darker sky if you need to bring the scene down but the objects and buildings out. So all of these things are really good. You can increase the amount of high clouds, increase the amount of low clouds, make it a really cloudy day or not very cloudy. You can change their position. You can make that animate when you're rendering a video, which is nice. So anyway, there are a bunch of things that you can do with this stuff. Generally, around us, we have very little clouds, so that's probably more like what we're going to have. But anyway, so that's setting most of our scene. Let me see if there's anything else I want to drop in. Oh yeah, depth of field. So depth of field, like I showed you before, in Maxwell, depth of field is a real pain in the ass. Like it doesn't behave the way that you really want it to. The good thing about this is I can just change the amount of focus, right? And then I can change where it's going to focus. So I pull this back and I focus on my building. And then I can say whether or not I want to unfocus certain things. Well, with this distance, it's not really going to change much, but let's do a background so that the mountains are a little bit. Yeah, that's probably good. And then, no, that's probably about it. Don't want bloom. I don't think we have bloom, do we? Oh, we do. Ooh, bloom is nice. So bloom allows more light to enter the camera from hotspots, which is great for kind of separating the viewer from model sharpness, I guess you would say. So it kind of softens up the image a little bit, and a photographer would be able to say a little bit more about that. But anyway, so I dropped in a whole bunch of things here. This is actually a lot of effects. Not all images really need this many effects, to be honest. So we're just kind of trying to create something that has some nice warm. What's that?
Looks like Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it does kind of look like Vegas in the morning, I suppose. So anyway, I'm gonna do a quick render. This one's I'm gonna do a 2K. So let's go there, save it, and you'll see that it's gonna take a little bit longer to run now, but it's still only gonna take a little bit less than a minute. So that's kind of nice. I really don't like those reflections. I'm very, very annoyed about those reflections. So there's our updated render. Yeah, so I hate the reflections, but the rest of it, the ambiance of it is kind of coming together. Yeah. So what questions do you have?
Is there any way to process images? Like random question, like can you take that from Lumion into Maxwell and kind of further sharpen it?
Into Photoshop?
Or Photoshop? Or
Yeah, yeah.
That's the way you would probably further sharpen the image.
Yeah, definitely. So here's the thing with this is like you're gonna get something that's almost product ready, meaning like you almost can deliver just a Lumion image. But generally, Lumion's not fantastic. It does have color correction features, and you can use those and try to target something that's going to be, you export it and it's good to go. But I like to take it into Photoshop and play around with like my shadows and highlights, my curves, that kind of stuff. Because, yeah, like if well, let's do it actually. So, like this one it's really warm, but it's also really cloudy in a way. So it kind of flattens the image a little bit. But if I bring some of the shadows down, shadows down and highlights up, it might help that. Oh, Photoshop has stopped working. That's nice. Okay, now our Photoshop is broken too. Anyway, wait. Oh, I'm doing it on my desktop or my laptop. Let's do it this way. Look at that. That's kind of nice, huh? Oh, not ready. Whoops. What did I do? I don't know what I did. What view is this that I opened it in? I don't know what that is.
I don't want to look for it.
All right, there we go. I don't know what that view was. Never opened up an image like that. All right, so now we're in Photoshop. This is where we're going to be able to do some color corrections and stuff like that. First off, you'll notice that we have this watermark. That's not a great thing to have. You probably want to zoom out on your image and then crop it down to get what you really want. But some of the things that I like to do, I'll go to my image adjustments. I'll play around with shadows and highlights. So I'll kind of increase shadows and highlights a couple of percentage points, or decrease shadows, sorry. Something like that. It gets, like the difference is pretty subtle. Actually, increase those.
Do you like the black level?
Yeah. And then I'll also tend to adjust my curves. So I'll drop down some of the dark elements and I'll kind of bring up some of the light elements ever so slightly. So it makes it a little more vivid sometimes, but this is kind of getting a little bit too much. It's too golden. So, but anyway, we can also change our, you can mess around with color balance a little bit, but just kind of playing around with vibrance, saturation a little bit. That got too gold, so I kind of want to desaturate it a few. Right, like take some of that yellow out just by reducing the saturation, make it a little more, city-like. So they're small things, but I don't even know if you could see it up there on that screen, but you could see the difference? Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, they're small, but they make the image a little bit better. So let me see if I drop in the thing again. Yeah. So anyway, I think I even made it worse. Yeah. There are a lot of filters on that one. But all right, so the next thing I want to do, I guess, is show you some of the scene setting extra features. Like I want to show you how to use water features and how to do some entourage. It's a lot easier than you would think. Questions?